Martin.
Thank you, Chair. Des, Gareth, thanks very much. It's great to see people at the very heart of the Procurement Directorate focused on social clauses, because this is where the rubber hits the road, and you're aware out there that there's some cynicism about our reviews and our analysis and our continuing guidance in this, and not enough delivery. So I'm glad to hear we're up and running with more advice, a new toolbox launched in Titanic Belfast, where I think we created 10 social clause jobs out of an £100 million spend, so appropriate place to be involved in that. And Belfast City Council was at the heart of that, because we give £10 million for that project, so the blame starts here. But to break it down very simply, how many contracts have had social clauses in them in the last 2 years, 3 years, and how many people got jobs as a result of those social clauses? Do we have a sort of ballpark figure for those?
Well, I don't know if we have. You've asked for the last number of years. We would need to come back with detail.
But any period at all. I mean, just one, is it 10? Is it 1,000 contracts have had social clauses
in terms of the just looking at the construction contracts, we'll have fuller figures for supplies and services after the end of the financial year, but the construction side, looking from November 2013 to September 2014, so just under a year, there were 411 construction contracts awarded, and just at paragraph 7 of the paper that we've supplied, we've set out what would be the work placement weeks and what would be the apprenticeships. For example, 152 contracts have a target for the provision of apprenticeships. So those input kind of figures are there. The issue that we've had, and this was really what led to the thoughts on the SIB review, was that in terms of how many people are getting jobs because of that, we just don't know. Our responsibility within CPD under the Programme for Government has been to make sure that contracts are having social clauses put into them. It is very difficult to link the people who've been on steps to work programmes through to who's in work at the minute. So the SIB review will be looking at what information there is on impact. I rather suspect that there's not an awful lot of information about, but I think if we're in the business of moving from a work placement arrangement through to an actual job arrangement, it becomes much, much easier to show the impact that you're having, because you are directly creating jobs for people who have been longer term unemployed, and that's much easier to see the impact, and it's much easier to monitor.
And I mean, it's wonderful to see this focus on social clauses, and this is where we've been around long enough to remember Innes McCormick introducing this and actually pioneering it in the Royal Victoria Hospital. But would you agree that that's the figure that we need to be able to bring out to the public, that there were 1,000 people who came off, preferably long-term employment, but 1,000 unemployed people who got work through our contract? Would you agree that that's the figure that we need?
Certainly, I think when you actually hear an individual who's come through on a social clause and actually explain, stand up and tell a room full of people the impact that that's had on their life, I mean, that's a very powerful story to hear. How you actually get that information is, I think, the issue, because we struggle with management systems that allow us to trace individuals through that system.
But will you agree it's vital that we find a way to do that? We need a solution to that, because the public, the public are pleased, I think, Chair, that we are now focused on social clauses. It's the priority issue of our time is providing unemployment to especially areas that have suffered long-term unemployment. But is all the other reviews not going to be a waste of time if we can't say that 4,000, 2,400 people got jobs?
That was really one of the points that the Procurement Board was making last time we went to them on this in November, which is that there is an obligation across government, across the civil service, to monitor the impacts of policies. We didn't seem to be in a position where we were able to do that in terms of what had happened to date. So it is identified as a priority.
You're trying to get there.
The future.
And then to follow up on that, I suspect that you will share my frustrations. If we went through the Section 75 categories, we clearly don't have figures for how many travellers and other ordinary people who did or didn't benefit from social clauses. And you mentioned young people in care. You know, we have this target of getting 75% of them into education or training or employment. I take it with no figures to tell us how we're doing it at that. We don't have the figures, we don't have a breakdown, I suppose, on the Section 75
we don't
categories.
have a Section 75 breakdown again, but again, I think it's an issue for the future.
Okay. Sure. Thank you, Jim. I want to repeat, I mean, it gives me great heart to see this issue on the table. You're clearly very professional, working very hard on it, and you can be sure that this committee will be pushing behind you to get the answers you want, to get monitored returns back, and so you can really deliver on this pledge of government. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Martin.